All right, the recorder is on and we're ready to begin.
Okay, so we can, I'm sorry, Anne, just one moment. I am searching for the Red Hook ZBA meeting and I'm not getting tonight's.
RHZBA meeting. RHZBA meeting is, it's,
And while she's doing that, can you make sure that I'm a co-host with you?
is that under share
Okay.
screen or where do I find that?
If you click on my name, it should say make co-host. If that doesn't happen, then
My option that I have is make you host.
we won't do that because you have the YouTube stream.
Okay.
Okay, so we can open the meeting now. And first we'll do a roll call and then Jim Hegstetter, you are here.
I am here, and
Chris
I'm on camera.
Chris Carney, you are here.
Yes, I'm here.
And Chris Close, you are here.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Can we get do we need a motion to open the meeting?
You can open the meeting, but we need a motion to reopen the hearing.
Yeah, okay. Well, that we're not going to do just yet because I need to say that pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1 and federal and state and local advisories related to COVID-19, this ZBA meeting is being held remotely by video conference, and it can be viewed on the YouTube channel. The link was provided in tonight's meeting agenda, and there is no in-person gathering at Town Hall. And the first item we need to take care of is the minutes from way back. Going first to March 10th of this year. Chris Close, you are now here. And I and Chris Carney were present for those meetings. Does anybody have any comments or corrections to the meeting, to the minutes rather?
I do not. I do not.
No,
Okay. I do not. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes of March 10th, 2021.
And who seconds?
Chris Close.
Okay, who seconds?
I will, Jim Hegstetter.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye. Okay. Moving on to the minutes of April 14th, 2021. And in attendance there was.
Can you hear me?
Who's speaking?
Oh, I'm sorry, this is Sam Harkins. Everything froze there for a few minutes. I just want to make sure it was still live. I apologize.
Yeah, we can hear you, Sam. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the draft minutes of April 14th, 2021, Jim, Chris Carney, and I were in attendance. Are there any corrections or comments about this?
I don't have any. It's pretty accurate.
Okay, I have nothing. Can I get a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved. I move that we accept the minutes.
Is that Jim?
Yes.
Okay, a second?
Chris
I'll
Carney.
second.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then we have the May 12th draft minutes. And again, that was Jim, Chris Carney and I were in attendance. Any comments or corrections?
Got none.
Nope.
I just have one, just so we look like we're really smart. On page 4, and there's a missing H in front of anonymous.
Okay.
And other than that, so I have no comments. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second. Chris Carney.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, we're done with that. Okay. I just want to say in advance that the second item on the agenda requires me to recuse myself, which I will do. And Mr. Hegstadter has agreed to step in and act as chair for that matter. So I will be absent for that. And so you know what's happening. And the first item on the agenda tonight is the continuation of the public hearing for the Mighty Donuts variance applications. And I just want to take a minute to assure everyone who submitted comments in writing through letters or emails that they were distributed to all the ZBA members in ample time so that we could review them. They have been read by me, certainly, and they will be part of the public record. So if anyone who wrote a letter is also commenting, please feel free to summarize your message, but we have received it already. Okay. And another thing that before we continue the hearing, I want to say that the Dutchess County Planning Board, Planning Department sent a recommendation that the variance for the frontage not be approved unless the diner building was shifted 20 feet to the south. And because they made that conditional recommendation, that triggered General Municipal Law 239 LNM, so that a vote of a majority of the board plus one, that is four votes, would be needed to grant a variance. The letter that the planning department wrote didn't include exact measurements or a reference drawing to determine the 20 feet. And I did reach out to Heather Lavarnway, and she confirmed by checking her drawings that the site plan, which is now numbered A002.04, revision 4 of May 5th, 2021, does show the required move of 20 feet. So only 3 votes would be needed to grant a variance for the frontage. So that's clear. And I guess to continue the public hearing, we would first ask the applicants if they want to briefly review their proposal. We've heard from you several times now. If there's any changes, and explain to us why you need a variance from the 70% frontage requirement and the requirement that the buildings on the site have be 2 stories tall. Okay, and who will speak for the applicants? Zach? Take it away.
Thank you, Kate. Shall I share my screen?
Anne?
I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
No, wait. Yes, here we go. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Is that working okay?
That is working just fine. Let me know when you guys see it.
Yep.
Great. So as Kate mentioned, since last time, the biggest change is the moving of the building 20 feet from the driveway in order to allow for future development on the north side of the lot. And in that spirit, we have shown a box here representing a potential future mixed-use 2-story building, and that would be pending the arrival of municipal water and sewer. So this shows that that by moving the donut shop south, we were able to not only meet the county and planning board suggestions, but allow for future compliance when the site can support such compliance. Some minor things that we've added from the planning board suggestions are a bike rack located here. In the previous ones, we've added a concrete patio in front of the existing building we call the Botini building. In addition, we have complied to all we hope that the street tree requirements. So those have been switched out, though that doesn't necessarily pertain to what we're talking about. And that's essentially it. And I know Kate had some concerns on the last round about why we lost 2 parking spaces, which is understandable. The reason I got to the bottom of it, the reason is we were planning on removing this fence that encroaches our property, and so we had been overlaying that fence, and then we realized that this is just a neighborly encroachment, and so the rest of the fence belongs to our neighbor to the south. So we're just going to leave that, and that's why we lost those 2 spaces. So that should clear that up. In addition, something that we kind of touched on our last meeting is the septic field has gotten quite a bit bigger due to real life actual perk tests we got, and that showed the soil performance. And so we had our civil engineer redesign the system, and you can see it's gotten 30 to 50% bigger.
Actually, Zach, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when I looked at the drawings, it is more intense in the area that the field covers, but it doesn't seem to actually extend the area. In fact, it seemed to be a little, on the earlier drawings, it was more in the area of that tree that's in the large tree in the middle than it is on this drawing.
Well, we'll have to, I can pull the one. How do you want to handle that, Kate? I mean, we can pull the previous. No, I could pull it up right now. Let's just take a open look at it. Hold on, I'll find the previous.
I can't see the number of this drawing on the screen here, but maybe an earlier.
You just give me 1 second. I'll be able to pull her up.
There, does that help? You see the number of the drawing, or?
No, I don't, but.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you're mentioning I don't know if you can see this. This is the older layout. So I believe our laterals have gotten longer, and it required us to turn them 90 degrees.
Right, that I see.
Right, and so what that actually allowed us to do 2 things. It allowed us to get a little bit more. We had to make our laterals longer and add a 3rd expansion, which you can see as well. Right. And it allowed us this configuration allowed us to have a better chance of saving that existing maple tree just to the south of the field, which I can show you right now. This guy.
Yeah.
So by, in the other configuration, we may not have been able to save that. So this is a lot, this will likely be our expansion, and then this be our actual. So it's looking really good that we can keep.
I'm sorry, I don't understand when you said your expansion and your actual. What do you mean?
So typically when we're making septic fields, there needs to be an area of future expansion.
And that Dutchess County Department of Health, or whatever it's called now, Behavioral and Community Health, requires that when you put in a septic system new, you have to build it for the complete capacity of the site, sufficient to support that project. Plus, you have to identify a 100% expansion area. So in the event that the existing septic field fails, you have enough space to put in a new field.
I see. So
it's a county requirement.
Okay, so what we see there is the field is in effect 100% of what's required now, plus an additional 100% should there be a failure. So it's 200% of what's required now. Did I understand that?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, that's what's supposed to be there. I don't see which one of these is labeled as expansion, but.
Yeah, we can definitely iron that out with our civil engineer. I'm sure he did his due diligence. It could be just one field needs an expansion. In case one field fails, then we can go to the other field, go back and repair that, and then we'd be back in business. Maybe that's the logic there, but we could definitely get that to you as a response, perhaps as a condition.
And when you say you had to have extra for expansion, but you've earlier said you'd only have expansion if there was sewer and water connection to the town. So you wouldn't need the septic wouldn't kick in that event, right?
That the expansion is just it's not for expanded use, it's for failure of a system. So
I understood. I thought there were 2 components there, but you're saying just one. It's just for system failure.
That's right. That's
okay.
Right.
I need clarification, please, then. you're required to put in 100%, which I see there, even though it's mislabeled on one side. And then Victoria, are they required to have an equal amount of space available to put the same system in?
It's the fields, and yes, they are. So I don't see that it's labeled here, so we can ask them to clarify.
But wait a minute, I'm not quite clear. So this is the entire property, right?
Mhm.
And where are you going to get another area the size of what is drawn as the septic system now?
Well, Zach, do you know the answer?
I don't off the top of my head, Chris. I apologize. I will
apologize. Just a
yes,
question.
I can definitely reach out to our civil engineer and clear that up. I have, maybe blindly, but I have faith that he did his due diligence, and this is and the county did have a chance to see this, I believe, and I didn't see any comments from them. So I feel fairly confident we got it right, but we'll send a memo out.
Okay, I'm not trying to make it difficult. I'm just,
Yeah.
so you're saying that the existing septic system as drawn will handle the businesses you have for the time being without filling it entirely. And that if one of the systems breaks, for example, the one on the north there, if all of the existing sewage goes in there, and that breaks, then you have the one next to it, and if that breaks, then you have the other one next to it. Is that how the system works, or does it all go into all three at once?
So actually, what I'm just kind of studying this drawing. What he has proposed is a septic tank and then a pump station. The pump station will take it to a distribution chamber.
Yeah, sure, fine.
And then that distribution chamber, it looks like there's another force main that may have to pump it to those three. And right now he's got all three of those lined.
Okay.
So there may be some DOH kind of, code that he was working within in order to get it to this configuration. But he'll definitely have some explaining to do if we don't get through the DOH.
Who was the engineer on this?
Aaron Vera.
Can you repeat that, please?
He's right here on the drawing. It's Verity Engineering, and I believe his name's Aaron Vera.
Hold on. I'm just trying to, okay, I'm moving this. So Verity Engineering. I just need to put his name in the minutes. Can you, I can't see his name written. Can you spell that?
And it's on sheet C101 for if you're doing your minutes.
Thank you.
Is there does any other board member have a question for us?
I just want to follow up on the parking then, Zach. You said that you realized that, your neighbor has a fence that's encroaching on your property?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Essentially, yeah. I guess there was some confusion about the status of that fence, and our drawing shows it overlapping. If I pull up one of the older drawings, it shows that
Okay.
Here, I could do that right now. Actually, I think it's in this last one. No, we got it fixed in that one. Hold on. Yeah, there you go. See, that shows the issue right there.
So is the neighbor's fence encroaching on this property?
It is, for sure. 100% it is, but
So you would be able to tell the neighbor to move the fence and then use that space for parking?
we could, yes. We absolutely
Thank you.
could. You're welcome.
Okay.
Would you get any additional spaces?
Two.
Okay.
The original drawing showed 29 spaces behind the Bottini building, and then there was a mysterious drop off to 27. So we now understand why that was.
Yes.
everybody that's needs to mute is muted, I hope. Okay. Board members, does anyone have any questions for the applicant at this point about any part of this, their application for the height or the frontage variances?
I would like to see, I apologize, I was away.
No, fine, Chris.
I would like to see the artist's rendering of the building itself, if I could, please, to
Absolutely.
get a sense of what you're proposing,
Yeah. Would you like to see it at day or night first?
both.
Oh, okay. All right, well, here's day. We'll start with day. Just so you know, the some of this is a little outdated, and I'll point out what those items are. This fence running across has been removed. Now we have street trees. The sign has since been proposed to be removed. And of course, the building has moved a little bit on the site. But other than that, this is essentially.
And this is okay, I see. All right.
So, Chris, they're here for 2 variances.
Yeah.
One is that in the district, it requires 2 stories.
Yes, I've read everything.
Okay.
I just wanted to get a better idea of what it looked like, and I hadn't seen these color photos or renditions. And you say the sign, which I see illuminated at night, is gone in the
Correct.
latest rendering? Okay,
Correct.
And the fencing is all gone.
yeah. Okay.
And the frontage has increased to what now?
So, Jim, it hasn't increased at all with these changes. The building has simply just moved around the site. So we are still proposing the original 40 feet of compliant frontage. In the site currently has 0 compliant frontage.
That's not correct. That's not, there's 2 buildings there that are frontage.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Kate. I using the word modifier, the modifier of compliant, because the frontage requirement requires the building to be, I think, off the top of my head, 14 feet from the street. And so the current buildings on the site are
Okay.
far further than that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Chris, Chris Close, do you have any other? Since you weren't here for the prior discussion, I know
No,
you've read everything, but
I have. No,
okay.
I'm fine. Yeah, I understand what's going on.
Okay, okay. So I think with that, we can open this up for public comment. I would ask that everyone, Anne is going to tell us the order in which you will speak because she has that information. I would ask that everyone that's commenting do address your comments to the board. And if you've written, as I say, please just summarize your letters. We have had an opportunity to read them. And please try to keep your comments to
Should I have one
4
quick-
minutes or so. And then if we have extra time, we'll.
Should I
Sure.
stop the
Just-
screen share or continue?
May
I'm
I have
sorry?
just one
Go.
quick question? This is going to be a full service diner in the way we understand a diner here.
That's a great question. Actually, it's just going to be, even though the exterior would have you think that, it is proposed right now is as simply a donut shop. So they would make donuts in the back, and they would and then you serve them in the front for just I don't know if people would be eating in there, but and then eating around the outside and being in the neighborhood would be the bigger the bigger pool.
Coffee and donuts.
Coffee and donuts.
How many employees do you envision?
I'll let our Dennis and Rihanna, who are on, speak to that.
Yeah, and of course it would depend on the division between part-time and full-time employees, but I would say on-site at any given time, 4 to 6 employees. So how that breaks down into total employment is really dependent on shift and part-time work.
Thank you.
Okay, and the hours that you'd be open, just to review that. Anticipate.
Yes, so the longest anticipated hours that we would be open, and I think we said is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That was part of our application, just as The longest anticipated hours, of course, be adjusted seasonally perhaps, and sort of depending on business operations, but those are the longest hours.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay, well, let's move on to the public comment. Anne, why don't you ask in
Okay.
order of the contacts you received?
Should I stop the screen share or no?
Yes, please.
Yes, it'd be helpful to stop. And can we just have a motion to reopen the hearing?
Okay, can I do one
Thank
thing
you.
at a time? I gotta write that motion down and I just, okay, good.
Okay. Can we have a motion to reopen the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Go ahead. Christopher,
Second.
go ahead. You can do it. Aye. Jim Hexter, seconds.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Anne, do you want to ask the first person to speak?
Yes, the first person that from whom I received a request was Steve Cole.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, Steve, we can hear you.
We're okay? All right,
Yeah.
thank you. I apologize. I was having some problems with internet. I am not in Red Hook today. I am indoors in Lake Ontario. So I was losing the signal off and on. So I apologize if I'm repetitive of what may have already been covered. But I have concerns with this proposal due to the fact that we are taking a master plan that was very carefully constructed. The first time it is being put in place for commercial use along the Route 9 corridor for variance. And I think that is a gross mistake because the intent of the zone was to prevent something like South Road, Town of Poughkeepsie, Hyde Park from occurring on the entryway to community. And I think by just starting out with immediate variance is just a mistake because what it will do is set a precedent, and then we will have numerous applications on top of one another to try to go around what was the intent of the master plan. The other question I have is we were talking about where the applicant was just saying he's going to be open from 7 to 7 and his product will be coffee and donuts. I think that is a very ambitious business plan to survive on coffee and donuts for that parcel. So I think the true intent is what is going to happen to the Botini building, which is kind of the nefarious outlier on this whole project. Nothing really has been said about a plan for that. And I just think any approval of this plan as it is written will set a poor precedent for any future requirements that come before the town. And just two other comments relating to the site itself. I would like to know if the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority has chimed in because the Oak View Road subdivision behind it has a very strong requirement for water, supplying over 50 homes with water from the same aquifer, and also with the larger septic system have any impact upon that aquifer as well. So that's pretty much all I had to require for my comments. So I thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cole. I'm unfamiliar with anything about the aquifer or how the septic system might impact the aquifer. I would ask Victoria, can you comment on this? Is this something that we need to
So
take into
the
account?
planning board has conducted an environmental review of this project, and you received a copy of its negative declaration.
Correct.
And as part of that environmental review, they are supposed to consider things such as, impacts to water, wastewater, stormwater, etc. So it's not within the purview of the zoning board to consider those impacts, especially because the variance that they're seeking is about height and frontage. So, theoretically, if you're just considering the impact of those variances. Right. The project itself, isn't gonna, sorry, I'm not being very artful in my words today, but
you're great.
The project's impacts on water and sewer remain the same, whether it's up against the road or whether it's pushed back and not occupying 70 feet of frontage.
Okay, so the planning
impacts that the planning board has reviewed.
So the planning board, which was lead agency on this, should be the body to which Mr. Cole should address these concerns.
Yes, those are planning board concerns.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and next,
The next person who requested to comment was Alan Monarchy.
Mr. Menarche.
Hi,
hear from you?
I currently live at the house that sits on there that's going to be demolished in order for this donut shop to get put up. My concerns are essentially the same. I would maybe feel differently if the house was unoccupied, but it's clearly not a good time to be house hunting in Red Hook, and I'm having a very challenging time finding alternate housing, and I feel like I'm under the gun. I also don't quite understand some of the septic requirements because, they shifted the site down in order to leave room for another business to the north and whatever they're going to put in the Botini building. And I don't know how, if they don't have enough septic capacity, which is why they have to knock the house down, how is that going to support, two other businesses potentially that will, if it's a restaurant, will clearly exceed the septic capacity of a house. So, those are my concern. My primary concern is because I live here. And, like Steve Cole says, if you're going to open up a can of worms, you may end up with something you don't want in the future. But that's all I have for this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Menarche. Okay, and next,
The next person who requested to comment is Lucy Monarchy.
okay,
Yes, hi. I just think that a donut shop is not the thing to go up in Red Hook. We have other donut shops. But the main thing is that you're destroying a perfectly good home, my son's and grandson's home. And I don't think anybody's taken that into consideration at all. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Ms. Menarche. We have heard you. Anne?
Next person is Michelle Kaiser.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Michelle Kaiser. I have been in Red Hook all my life, born and raised here. I work here. I'm a teacher in the district for over 20 years. So I do have my opinions on this, and I do not feel that this is a project that should be approved for Red Hook. We have some really good businesses here that have struggled through COVID and continue to exist. And adding this donut shop / diner is taking businesses away from people who are really trying to beat this. If a new business were to come in town, this is not, a coffee donut shop is not right for Red Hook. We already have multiple sweet shops in town. I feel like Red Hook needs a $4 donut like we need a $1 donut. I have, in the district, have many friends. I live in neighborhood, many neighbors, colleagues. I don't get the sense that people are needing or wanting donuts for this project. A lot of people are asking, in Red Hook? You mean down the street from Dunkin' Donuts? That's mostly the responses I get from many. Also, I feel like the approval and the variances required for this project should not be granted. As Steve Cole said, this would set a precedent, a bad one moving forward, and it could cause trouble for the zoning board in the future. I feel like this is a portable building and we're trying to fit it in a space that it doesn't fit, like the puzzle piece that you're trying to push into this puzzle that it just doesn't belong in. There are other commercial zones that can accommodate a project like this, and that would be a more appropriate place, I feel. Let's keep this small hometown feel in Red Hook that's been here all my life and many decades prior, instead of opening the door to potentially elaborate projects that are not going to be as easily voted down in the future. Perhaps most importantly, it requires destroying somebody's home. My brother Alan lives there. None of this seems to make sense. I ask the board's consideration to not approve this project due to the location, the type of business going in potentially, the variances required, and the loss of a home. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Okay, Anne?
The next person is Bruce Ratcliffe.
Yeah.
Mr.
I
Ratcliffe?
would- Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So my biggest thing is basically the viability of this business. It's a small business, only selling donuts and coffee. And my take is it won't survive more than a few years. And after it doesn't survive, just because of the old, I'll call it the old school diner building, there's not really much else that could ever go into that location. So if you're going to take a variance and allow something like that to go in, you need to have some building that if a business fails, something else could move into there. You're going to have this old school diner as the first thing that people pull into Red Hook see. And my take is the viability of the business, it won't survive more than a few years. And after that, there's just going to be some old school diner sitting there as the first thing that comes into town that's abandoned because no other, businesses could come in the future. I mean, I myself opened a business in the area several years back. It was a self-serve yogurt store, a very viable business, very fluent at the time. It did not survive just because of the economics of the area. And again, my take is that the viability of this business will not survive. Only selling donuts and coffee does not generate enough income for a business to survive. They have to have something else, and being in the building can only basically, that's the only thing they want to use it for. It's just not a qualified business plan for a survival business that will survive in this area. And my take is within a few years, it's just going to be out of business. We're going to have an empty building sitting there as a monolithic old school diner right as you come into town with nothing else that can possibly go into the location. So, but that's basically my feeling. So, and thanks for the time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ratcliffe. Anne?
That's everyone. Oh, I have someone requesting, hold on, Robinson Gregg. All right. I think Michelle Gregg or someone, Robinson Gregg has. Okay, I don't know if she wants to comment.
Okay, if there's anyone else that wishes to speak, let us know. Just speak out over the Zoom meeting now.
And could I speak? This is Sam Harkins.
Sam?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I just would like to echo what a couple of other people have said. My background is that I did spend 14 years on the planning board in the town of Red Hook, and I've been a zoning enforcement officer in different communities for 30 years. So I've dealt with zoning and variances and everything for quite some time. And I did work on the new zone down there. And I just feel that the first time that a variance is requested, if it's granted, especially two of them, we're going to set a precedent that down the road, we're not going to be able to backtrack because Article 78 will come up. And if we did, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as the old saying goes. So I'm just very fearful of different Article 78 coming up against the town of Red Hook in the future, because the first time on a new zone that the ZBA would grant two variances. So I urge the members of the ZBA to look at the future of what could happen if these variances are granted. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Harkins. Okay. Anyone else? Last chance.
Okay, so
Yes, Zach.
I think that I think we had, I don't know if Dennis's sister was gonna speak at all.
Oh, we're happy to have Mia and Mark. Are you still here?
Yes, we are. We're here.
Did you wish
Hi.
to speak?
Yes, if
Oh,
you don't mind, I'll just take a minute or two to introduce myself and my boyfriend, Mark. I'm Mia. I'm Dennis's youngest sister. This is my boyfriend, Mark, and we've been working with Dennis and Rhiannon constantly to try to bring Mighty Donuts to fruition. I went to culinary school right out of high school. I've been working in the restaurant industry since I was 15, so for half my life. I'm 30 now. I'm currently working at a donut shop as a donut processor, and we're very excited to be part of a family business. You know, this is a very exciting opportunity. We would be new to Red Hook. I understand a lot of you have been there for a very long time. I do have family there, and I grew up in a small town very similar to Red Hook in Ohio. We'd be really excited to contribute to the community and be part of, you know, the town. We're working on donut recipes and just trying out a lot of different stuff. We'd be really excited to be, you know, part of the town and share some delicious donuts with Red Hook. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mia.
Okay, and one more thing. We had since there were I would count about 6 negative comments so far. I know that one comment was read at the planning board that was really, I think, positive and probably gave. I don't know how many were positive, but if we could read the one from Paul Stewart's.
Was that letter sent to the zoning board?
I believe it was.
We received it today, this afternoon, very late, and I did forward that.
I didn't have a chance to print it out. That's from the gentleman who is from someplace, some other town, right? He served on the planning board in some other town.
Yes, he's from Missouri, but he lives in Red Hook now, and he works at Upstate Films.
Oh, so he's new to Red Hook?
Yeah.
Are any of the ZBA members interested in hearing this letter read out loud? Have you reviewed it? Have you seen it online? You know, and did send it around.
I read the letter.
I read the letter too.
Right, we've received several letters since the last meeting.
Yeah. So
Yes,
I think we've read it, Zach, and it is part of the public record. So please rest assured, we've read it. I did not have a chance to print it out, which is why I was unsure of where it was from, but I definitely got the points that he made. Okay, so it looks like we can close the public hearing at this point and move on to board consideration. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay. Okay, so I think to structure the discussion, we can look at the variance resolution sheet. Anne, did you send that out again? Or-
I did not. You had said,
Okay,
I had asked you if I should, and you had said just.
I
to-
said I had it, yeah. So do the other board members, do you have a copy of the resolution sheet, or we can just read the questions out and then begin discussion, whichever you prefer?
Please do that.
Okay, so the first factor that we are required to consider is whether the variance will or will not produce an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. Does anyone want to start the discussion?
Well, I just want to make a comment on that.
Sure.
It's interesting, it talks about character of the neighborhood. That question talks about the current character of the neighborhood as it exists, and not necessarily the future character of what could be one day.
And Victoria, do you have a site for that or something? I mean, what I read is it's ambiguous. Do you have something that would say that we are not to consider the future of the site?
No, on this particular question, the question asks, will it be inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood? And there's cases and treatises which explain that it's the current character, and I can provide the board with some references.
Okay, and current character, how, and I want to make a real clear record here, which is why I'm being a little nerdy about this. Current character, what exactly does that mean? Because the current character includes not only the hardscape, the physical, but also the zoning for that neighborhood and others. You know, I don't know what else, but is there some definition or some explanation of what current character actually comprises?
I think character is used in its common understanding. You know, board members can go out if this was a proposed garbage transfer facility, you could go out and look and say, the character of this neighborhood is all single family homes up and down the street. This certainly would be inconsistent because all the homes are, single story, and this is a transfer station of, big piles of garbage.
So I
Here,
understand. I'm sorry.
you have to look at what the character is of the physical characteristics of the neighborhood and it's what it's used for.
So you're saying that by characteristic, we mean what we can see if we went there?
Yes.
Okay.
Please read that one more time.
I'm sorry. The exact wording on the form is: the variance requested will not produce an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll call names. Mr. Carney, do you have any comments on this at this point? I mean, you can revisit it later, but do you want to start the discussion at all?
I don't have any.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot. If you want to wait, that's fine. I don't mean to, but just.
No, it's fine. Based on my interpretation of this first criteria, I would say that it is keeping in character with the surrounding neighborhood, especially when one considers the businesses that are across the way, namely the Hardscrabble Plaza. I think, based on the artist rendering, it is consistent in that respect. So that's my comment.
Jim Hegsetter, do you want to say anything about this?
No, I think that Chris summed it up. I don't think it's it's certainly not an eyesore, and it's going to be a new building. I can understand that design, the rendering looks good, but yeah, those are certainly not my concerns.
Chris Close, do you have anything you want to say?
Well, it will have a direct detriment to the adjoining property. They're going to tear down the house.
Well, that's true. You're right.
I think that's
It's
significant.
not an adjoining property. That is the property.
I understand that's an impact on the neighborhood.
Okay.
Well, so I just want to focus. We're talking about the variance, so they can build.
I understand. Thank you.
Still tearing down the house.
I do.
Right.
Yes. Thank you.
And I have something to read, Kate, when everyone's done speaking.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have comments too, but why don't you go ahead and read it now?
Okay, so it says considerations relevant under this first factor typically include, but are not necessarily limited to, consistency or lack thereof of proposed deviation from bulk and area requirements with physical aspects of surrounding properties, traffic and parking impacts. So that first one is, how does this compare to other properties in the area? Traffic and parking impacts, aesthetic impacts, and noise and glare. Board should also consider whether granting the variance will achieve a community objective, such as reduction of a non-conforming structure. You can also consider negative precedent. It's permissible, but you have to keep in mind that future precedent would be based on a similar set of facts on a similar piece of property.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful. Okay, well, I see several detriments to the character of the neighborhood, and what Victoria just said was we can comment on whether the granting the variance would achieve the community objectives. And what I see at issue here is that we have a zoning code and very specific design standards for the TNDCC district that are intended to transform this neighborhood. So this first question, it doesn't lend itself to this consideration, but I think under the consideration for community objectives, it is appropriate to speak about this. The zoning for this particular small area of the town, the TNDCC, is intended to be transformational. And I do not find, based on what we've heard in the documents, which have been voluminous, that the applicants have shown that they cannot comply or much more substantially comply with the height and frontage requirements. It is their aesthetic vision of how the project should look that precludes compliance with the code. And all my comments are based on that understanding. The purpose of the code, section 149-49.1, is to create over a number of years a new neighborhood very different from the existing suburban type development of widely spaced buildings with the majority of frontage being parking lots and grass and trees. And the intent of the TNDCC district zoning is to require densely built up neighborhoods to encourage civic interaction, walkability, and appearance that's consistent with the village core area. And that is the reason for this 2-story and 70% frontage requirements. The town spent years of meetings with the public and professional planners going through the process of creating a master plan and a resulting zoning code, which is extremely specific as to the aesthetic design and appearance of the TND districts, because the concept is that the design creates interactions and defines the community. And to that end, the town adopted the designs of a respected planning and urban design and architecture firm. And when the code was adopted, the drafters and the public knew there was no town or sewer connections. They knew the size of the parcels in the area, and they clearly anticipated that not every parcel would be suitable for every permitted use. And I believe that granting the variances that would result in a look so at variance with the design standards, so that every parcel can accommodate every type of development, subverts the goals of the code and does not lead to achieving the community objective as set forth by the town in its zoning code. And the second detriment I see is, I think, a more specific one, is that a set goal of the code at 143-49.1 AL is to make development decisions predictable, fair, and cost-effective. Builders and developers of nearby properties will be attracted to the predictability of what the zoning allows and what standards have to be met. And you can look at the transitions residential development in the adjacent district, TND district. It's 102 units of housing, a significant financial investment by the developers that was obviously entered into with an understanding of the TND concept and based on projected development in the area, including the TNDCC. We also heard testimony about Plimpton and Sons, and I did look back at the records for that. And it is a business that was required to make significant modifications to its plan to comply with the code. And I believe it's only fair to require compliance by all parties. I think that granting the requested variances would introduce uncertainty. This application is the first for a new building in the TNDCC, and any variance would set a precedent. I do not believe that the applicant has shown that they cannot comply or cannot comply to a much greater extent with the height and frontage requirements. The reason they want the variance is because, and they're perfectly right to do that. I mean, that's their prerogative, to have an aesthetic vision of how they want this retro diner to fit on their property and have lawn and grassy areas around it for open dining. But the reason they want the variance is because they don't want to compromise this design. And the whole point of the TNDCC is to enforce a specific aesthetic, the standards that require the 2-story buildings and the 70% frontage. And particularly now in a time when Red Hook's population is growing and where I think we can look to increase business and economic development to follow, granting the variance would increase uncertainty and in fact could act as a brake on achieving the town's zoning goals. And adding to the uncertainty is that in the absence of evidence that the applicants cannot comply, we're essentially being asked to make a decision based on subjective taste. And I think that we're being asked to substitute our design preference for the town's, what they mandated in their code. And I just don't think that's the role of the board. We're not elected. We serve at the pleasure of the town board for, just a few years, we move on. This board with this composition may favor some. We may love the diner. We may think it's a fantastic look and we really like it. And the next board composition might not. Basing these decisions on subjective aesthetic considerations when the town has very specifically told us what they want, this seems to me ill-advised at best. We shouldn't make zoning decisions based on the subjective personal tastes of board members. If we grant a variance for the diner, I think we start a slippery slope, and somebody shows up with a giant blueberry and says, you know, I love this blueberry and we grow blueberries in Red Hook and it's going to be a tourist attraction and there's going to create a few jobs. And how do we say no to the blueberry when we've said yes to the diner? Because we like the aesthetic, not because they could not comply with the requirements of the code. Of permitting this development, which is so at odds with the goals and the standards of the TND Commercial Center Subdistrict, to me seems to be a detriment to future development of other properties along this road, many of which remain to be developed. And it would create a precedent for ignoring the design standards and essentially defeat the purpose of the town zoning. And finally, the detriment to the community that has been mentioned, I think perhaps not enough, is that we're going to lose a well-maintained occupied family home, and the applicants propose to add no housing units. The TNDCC, if the zoning was complied with, it encourages two-story structures with commercial use on the first floor and residences on the second floor. But applicants' one-story project precludes any second floor residential use. That's my comment. Do any of the board members wish to now comment further?
I thought we were going to go further down the line before we had these kind of commentary, but your comments, no, they're in line with what my thinking is. I also do understand that we would be opening, you know, some opportunities with perhaps a lot more growth coming into the area. It would have a profound effect on what people could utilize as a massive change. And I always said this from the beginning, you know, we're changing the law. It's a very powerful decision and one I'm not taking lightly. So the comments you made are, you know, spot on. And that's really all I have to say. I do, and I will say, you're right. I think it's a lovely look. It's a nice diner. It looks, the concept and everything they've got laid out, wonderful. But we're changing 2 variances.
I think it's possible to agree with all those individuals who wrote in support of the diner. And I think that to admire the energy, the vision, the design, to think it's lovely, and yet still find that it is the wrong project for this spot. But we can move on to the next.
If we're going to be going through this, I need some more detail. So under this particular question, which has to do with impact on the character of the community, I mean, anytime you grant a variance, you're always changing the zoning law. So for this resolution, and maybe you're not going to vote tonight, maybe there'll be a written resolution at the next meeting. But the board should identify specific inconsistencies with the character of the community.
Well, the fact the variances
not just the fact that it's a variance, because a variance is always a change from the zoning law.
Certainly, but I say, and it is, but not every variance would basically subvert the goals of the community objectives set forth in the town zoning code, and that's what I'm referring to. I mean, you can look at the area. I mean, the diner's lovely. I mean, it's a nice design. No one has said it is not. And is it consistent with what else is around there? There's not a whole lot around there, but it's not different. So no, I am not making the argument that it's inconsistent with what is there. My comment is it is not consistent with the community objectives as set forth within the code, and very specifically requiring the 70% frontage and the 2-story buildings. that is not specific enough?
It sounds pretty specific to me.
I couldn't agree more. I think that is the overarching issue. The diner does look like a diner. Coffee and donuts, I'm questionable about that. But the overarching impact on Red Hook is we must not look like Hyde Park or any other roadside America from Kansas City to wherever. I think you have stated what is at stake here, beautifully organized, and I support it 100%. Your comments.
Okay. Victoria, is it okay to move on to the second point?
Yes.
Okay. The second point is the needs of the applicant cannot be achieved by other than an area variance. Does anyone want to speak on that? I'm ready if you guys aren't.
I'm ready.
Well, I mean, you go ahead.
Okay. I think that and again, this is my opinion. I'm eager to hear other opinions, but the applicant has repeatedly said that the focus of this project is to site the 1950s diner on this parcel and operate it there as a donut shop. And it could do so without needing a variance if it were willing to modify its architectural plans, the site plan, and the proposed use of the existing Bettini building. We've never discussed that. The applicants haven't, and I don't think they've been questioned to any significant degree about the fact that integral to their plan seems to be that they want to retain the Bettini building as it exists with no architectural modifications other than some kind of cosmetic fix-up, and then to use it as I think 2/3 of it is going to be devoted to restaurant and 1/3 to retail use. I think that there are other options. The applicants have talented architects and engineers that are working on their behalf. I believe that they could enclose the diner. They could alter or raise the Bettini building to create a wider 40-foot deep 2-story office or residential structure. They have chosen to stand with their original proposal, which they are entitled to do. The only accommodation they have made is to move the building 20 feet to the south. The diner itself at 1,600 square feet would require only 10 parking spaces. And I surely think that there is some plan for the rest of the parcel that would bring this project into compliance with the code or substantially greater compliance with the code. Any other comments?
Yes, I agree with you.
Modifications could be made. I understand that they don't want to do it, and I understand their reasoning for it. I understand there's limitations on the size of the way the structure is naturally framed out, but you're right. The other building, the Bettini building, could be modified. It could be brought forward. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could happen, but that's not our purview.
Right.
So do that.
Okay, if there are no comments, we'll go on to 3. The requested variances are not substantial. The frontage variance, they are required to have 70% frontage and believe that they are offering us 38% frontage. Please, someone comment.
Yes, they are substantial.
I also agree that it is a substantial request, given the nature of both variances that we're looking at.
So normally when we answer this question, we look at substantiality both on a numeric basis, which you've just done, and then on an impact basis, which I think, I mean, you've already talked about it. So I think what some of Kate's initial comments speak to the impact of the variance.
I would say that numerically, we have a 46% reduction from the required frontage, which I find numerically significant, and 100% variance from the 2-story requirement. So I would say that was substantial.
I would say comparatively to what we have seen in the past as requested for area variances, we've seen 10, 15%. I would say that's minimal. 40, that's substantial.
Okay, the fourth factor to consider is the requested variance will not affect the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. I believe it will not.
I would agree.
I agree.
I agree.
The fifth consideration is the hardship for which the variance is sought to rectify was not self-created. I believe it was self-created.
It was self-created, yes.
I
Yes,
agree.
it is self-created.
And the sixth factor to consider is the variance being granted is the minimum variance to meet the needs of the applicant. As I've mentioned before, I believe it is not the minimum variance required to meet the needs.
I agree.
This is true.
Anyone else? Okay. Okay, I think any board member have any additional comments to make at this time?
Can I ask one question? How does number 6 differ from number 2?
Two is the needs of the applicant cannot be achieved by other than a area variance.
Okay.
So there might be something that they could do that would not require the variance, but in the event that they would require a variance, 6 would address, was it the minimum variance that was required? Is that okay, Victoria?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so at this point, I think that what we will do is retire for an executive session, attorney-client session. We will not be voting on this matter tonight. And what will happen is this Zoom meeting will stay open. Excuse me, Anne, did you send out, I'm sorry, not Anne, Victoria, did you send a link for the second Zoom?
I didn't, because I couldn't do it while I was signed into this one. And so do we need it? I mean, you've already deliberated.
I thought we would, but I kind of think now we don't. So what we would do if we, does any member of the board wish to speak to the attorney in attorney-client conference?
All right.
If we're going to delay the vote, it's not necessary.
So what we would do now is direct the attorney to prepare a formal written resolution on which we would vote at the next meeting. Is that okay with everybody? I need some yeses or nos.
You should no, and I think you should reserve the right to have an executive conference outside tonight if we can't have a separate one. So we can discuss. I
think we could. We just have to wait for Victoria to close out and send us the link for that.
Right. We could do that. We could have an attorney-client session tonight, or we could have it sometime between now and the next meeting.
That would be fine with me. Between now and the next meeting would be fine.
I think technically it would be easier to do it that way. So so that will happen. The attorney will prepare a resolution and it will be voted on at the next meeting.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we will move on to the second item on the agenda. I am recusing myself. Mr. Hegstetter will take over as chair.
Okay. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
So moving to the next item for review is the review of the application for interpretation to a remedy violation issued by the town on May 7th regarding a 6-foot high fence of a green tarp material installed on the subject parcel without a building permit, which surrounds a neighboring residential property on 3 sides. The Town of Red Hook zoning law, section 143-28C, disallows a spite fence. Said fence, which by the nature of its placement does not appear to have been constructed for the purpose of containing or protecting the farm operation. It does appear to have been placed for the dominant purpose of annoying the neighbor whose property it surrounds by preventing passage of light, air, and other view from the neighbor's property. The subject parcel is located at 144-50 Pitcher Lane in the agricultural business ADA zoning district. of the town of Red Hook. So in review of this writing, I'm going to ask that you give an opportunity for the board to comment on what's been laid down for review in front of us. And I'd like to be able to have an open discussion amongst the remaining board members that are here. Has everybody read this? And first, I guess I could start off with Bob, because Bob, you said you've got a date that you had laid in the sand, which was the 31st of May for the fence to be taken down. Was that taken down?
Not to my knowledge, no. I was there just 2 days ago, and that was after the 31st. It was not taken down.
Okay, so I have not driven out to the site, and I have not been able to see.
But they're filing for they're filing for this interpretation stays any action that we might take against them.
Okay.
Right, so there, in essence, Mr. Grigg is challenging Mr. Fennell's notice of violation, saying that it was unlawfully issued. So Mr. Grigg, he can present his case, but he disagrees that this is a spite fence.
Well, I'm going to give him an opportunity to speak, but I understand that. And it does stay. I just was wondering, I haven't been out there, so I was wondering if it was removed or not. So with that being said, we'll give Mr. Grigg an opportunity to talk. Norman Grigg, are you if you're talking, when you're muted.
There, can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
Sorry. Well, the ozone came before the planning board. It's a business in the barn and a tenant of the farm. And at the planning board meeting, the Kate requested screening from the ozone because she said the traffic there would create a detriment to her property. And the Amelia, who runs the ozone, said, well, I have a planting there, a horticultural planting. And Kate insisted that the planting would not be enough. She wanted a fence, and she said so specifically. And then she stated that the fence not only had to screen her, but also keep light from passing from the headlights to her property. And then she tied a ribbon to the tree saying that the fence had to be at least this high, which was 7 feet. I made 3 different calls to Steve Cole to make sure that I created a proper fence. And he said, well, the fence should only be 6 feet high to be within code. And so then I said, well, what if both neighbors agree to a fence that's higher? Because I wanted to accommodate what Kate wanted. And he said, no, it would still be an illegal fence. So the fence I installed was only 6 feet tall, not 7 as Kate requested. As to the requirement for a building permit, this is in the ABD zone, and agriculture is exempt from building permits for building fence. So I constructed the fence so as to give screening. And then while we're at it, Ken Migarelli does very intensive agriculture on the other 2 sides. And he came by while we were constructing, and he said, it would be a huge improvement to have fencing there because we operate within 100 feet of her house with all hours, day and night, because he picks for New York City markets. And it's very intensive agriculture. And if you come and look at it, you'll see that there's a lot going on there. And so it was in no way intended to be a spike fence. It was to give screening and consideration to the Kate as our neighbor, and to ease the conflicting land use of residential and agriculture on both parties. So we've tried to do it carefully according to the law, And only after the fence was built, then suddenly it wasn't the fence that Bob Fennell wanted. And so how do I say it? When the planning board requires a fence, it's not like going to a dressing room and saying, well, let's try this one and then let's try that one. That's very expensive and actually not appropriate. But the fence is constructed on my property and not on Kate's. And it does the screening that is allowed by law. And I don't wish Kate any ill will whatsoever. We're trying to give her a little bit of privacy. And the truth is the house sits up enough so that she has full view of all of it from her house, because it sits up 4 feet above the property. The only place it gives privacy is to her yard. So when she's in the yard and there's a large agricultural crew working next door, she has a little privacy. So I'm baffled by how it became a spike fence after it was required by the planning board.
Bob, do you have any comment there?
Well, the word spike fence doesn't appear in the zoning law. The dominant, what it says is in section 143, 132, I guess. The fence you have erected, a green tarp material, appears to have been placed for the sole or dominant purpose of annoying your neighbor, Kathleen Caracasas, preventing the passage of light, air, or view to and from the Caracasas property. So it doesn't just have to be a spike fence. If it prevents the passage of light, air, or view from the neighboring property, then it's not allowed. And this fence does not do that. It does not allow the passage of light, air, or view from their property.
Does anyone have a picture of the fence they can share?
I was just going to ask that. Thank you.
We do, unfortunately, our pictures didn't turn out.
Okay. Well, I would first like to be able to go out into the property and
I think that's the best idea. Everybody should go look at this fence, make their own determination about it.
Okay. Can I ask, Norman, did you have any discussion with your neighbor relative to the fence while or before you put it up?
No, I did not.
Okay, just asking. So I would like to go out, obviously, and see it. Is there any other comment from anybody else? Chris, Close, or Carney?
No, I haven't been over yet, but I will go.
I will too. I'll take a ride over there tomorrow or Friday.
Yep, same here.
You know, I think it'd be good if we could hear from Sam Phelan, who's here. He's the chairman of the planning board, who could discuss this requirements from the neighboring store on the Gregg property. Can you do that, Sam? What the planning board decided about this fence, if anything?
Is that all right, Jim?
Yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, okay. The planning board has never ruled on this fence. We had a concern, well, we were doing a normal site plan review, minor site plan review for the Ozone property. I will say it was a year late in coming to us, but Amelia was very cooperative, and she had plotted out her parking and handicap spaces and whatnot.
Right.
And for the parking, which does, there are, I think, I don't know, 5 or 6 spaces that face to the east, which is towards Kate's property. They were essentially unscreened in any manner. And Amelia came to us and she had planted some bushes there. I've forgotten exactly what they were, but they were of a nature that they weren't going to grow fast enough to really provide any screening of that parking from Kate's property for probably 3 to 5 years.
I think she put some forsythias out there. You're right, and I don't think they're gonna grow at any rapid pace.
So we at the planning board had said that that wasn't satisfactory and suggested that she spend some time with Kate and come back to the planning board with a proposal. The next day, I think the fence started to go up. So we had never even considered that. And Amelia came back to us 2 weeks later with her own proposal, which was a much smaller wooden fence right there by the parking area. I think it was only 4 or 5 feet high because, you know, you only have to be up as high as the headlights. You don't have to be 7 feet in order to block headlights. You got to be 3 or 4 feet. But we never had a chance to rule on whether or not that proposal that she made was satisfactory because Bob had already issued a violation order and we're not allowed to make a decision on any lot that has an outstanding violation.
May I ask, excuse me, may I ask what's the distance between the fence on the western side of the fence and the business to the west? In other words, between Kate's or Amelia's ozone property and Kate's house?
Norman's probably better at measuring distance or guessing at distances than I am, but I'd say about 100 feet, 150 feet.
Thank you.
Norm?
I think a little more, maybe 250.
Yeah. Which is, in all honesty, the planning board wanted to keep that fence close to the parking because we knew if it was close there, it could be a smaller fence and achieve the same screening.
Okay.
And it would go, I would presume, Sam, that fence would go from north to south.
Yeah, right.
Only.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were only solving one problem. Yeah.
Okay. You were going to say something, Victoria?
Oh, I had a question for Bob and maybe for Sam, because you guys work with the site plans more. Does your code have any requirements for fence materials? Is it limited to wood fencing or?
I don't believe it does.
No,
No materials.
no, it's got some design specs, and if you use wood, of the way it has to be constructed, but no,
It doesn't specify the material, huh?
no.
Okay. All right. Chris Carney, any questions or any comments?
No, I would just like to go out and see it like everybody else has already said.
Okay.
Encourage everybody to do that. That's the most important thing.
I will definitely do that. And with that being said, is there anything else that you'd like to add, Norm and Greg, to the discussion? You're on mute. Okay.
Only that when Kate, you asked whether I had conversation with Kate about the fence before I put it up, but there were several conversations between Kate and Amelia about the fence.
Okay.
And that was when Kate, on her property line, tied a ribbon to the tree to describe the height she wanted the fence.
Okay.
And so after I talked to Steve Cole about the what was legal and what was not legal, so I did the right thing. I modified that to give her less fence than what she had requested, because she requested 7 feet high and I only built it 6 feet high.
Okay.
Because I wanted to stay within the letter of the law.
Okay.
This is Anna Gregg. Would I be able to make a comment?
It's not an open. I think I gave Sam that opportunity because he's chairing the
Well,
zoning.
I was speaking kind of on behalf of Norman, just adding to his point.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of ask the question with respect to the south and eastern parts of the fence, which were constructed for agricultural screening rather than with respect to the ozone. there, the code says that you can construct an agricultural fence for purposes of buffering the farm operations. And I think, to me, it's confusing if on the one hand, you can't construct a fence that blocks light or air or view, then what does it mean to buffer agricultural operations? And I think if you're trying to buffer dust, maybe is part of the air or, the view of the crews. So I think the fence was intended to, and it does in fact block those things, but that's because it's buffering the operations of Ken's farming.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
The section that limits a fence from stopping the passage of light, air, and view also applies to agricultural fencing.
I guess then how can you construct a successful agricultural fence that buffers ever?
I think it can be done.
Well, I guess it turns on the interpretation of buffer. Is it a physical buffer or a visual buffer?
But the fence in this case is both.
Yeah, I think it's going to require us to actually go out there and see what it looks like, and I think that's important. And at this time, I think that's where we're going to be at. And then I think.
Can I say one more thing? Victoria, Kate has some video done with her phone of the fence, which was done before the bushes started to turn green and blocking the fence somewhat. So it's very open, and you can see. She can provide that to the board, right?
So the board has to set a public hearing, and I was going to ask if they wanted to do so tonight for the July meeting, and then she can provide that information at the public hearing.
Yes, good.
But when the board goes on the site walk, it would be helpful if photographs were taken so that we have some for the record.
Okay. Well, I'm chair. I'll do it. I'll go out and I'll take some photographs. So I'll bring back what I have. So that's what we'll do. Let's set the public meeting for next week after the
next meeting.
Next month, I mean, I'm sorry, in July. So let's set that up for July, and we can put that on the docket behind the Mighty Dome.
July 14th would be the second Wednesday of July. So you just need to have a motion and a vote.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to set this up for a public meeting and have a I'll just, before I do that, let's all agree, maybe we can get together on a date for the board to go out there together to see what's there, and maybe we'll set up a time. I can communicate via email with everybody as to when we'll do that. But I would like a motion for putting this on the agenda for next month, the 14th, following the Mighty Donuts public. It's not a public hearing, determination.
This is Chris Close. I move that we have a public hearing on the question of the fence on Wednesday, the 14th of July.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so moved. All in favor? Thank you.
I would recommend when you go to the site that you go, make sure you go into Kate's property and look at the fence internally from her.
Yeah, we'll ask her if we can enter on her property. Definitely, I'm sure she'll could go walk on.
Well, and from the farm, I welcome you on the farm side as well.
Okay, we'll take a look at it from both ends. One other question is what is her name that owns the Ozone?
Amelia.
Is she on the line tonight? No. Okay, I just was curious if she had anything that she wanted to say, because she's the one that appeared in front of the planning board. I'd like to hear from her. But we can, like, we have the public hearing set, so we can have that discussion at that time. I have no other items for the board.
I just had a question, if I might. Victoria, I wanted to ask you if it's okay if the board members go out there together, or does that violate the public meetings law?
So the board members can go out together. The rule, though, is that they can observe and ask questions of Kate or ask questions of Mr. Gregg, but they should not discuss amongst themselves their observations or any issues. So it's a fact-finding mission, and then when they get back to the board meeting in July, they should describe what they saw on the sidewalk.
I just didn't want to, didn't want to have, trample on our property 4 different times. I just thought it'd be easier if we did it together, but we can go separately. In fact, we probably won't be able to
do it together.
Yeah, doesn't matter. All right. What was the other question I had? Will you also be sending out a notification for a executive session? Will you be putting that out to everybody?
Yeah. And the other thing, since you've set the public hearing, we have to ask the applicant to pay for the cost of certified mailings. And that came to, I have it here. I have the receipt here. That came to $104.40. And Norman needs to bring a check to town hall by noon of this Friday so that we have time to get those public hearing notices mailed out. So, and I will provide you with a receipt, Norman.
Doesn't that come out of the 500 escrow?
No, the cost of certified mailings is a separate cost.
Okay, I'll bring it. How much was it again? I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's $104.40, and that breaks down.
That's not a problem. 104.40.
Yeah, you have 15 neighbors, and each letter costs $6.90. 96 cents. I'm sorry, $6.96. So it comes to $104.40.
The U.S. Post Office thanks you.
How did you count the neighbors? Are they within
300 feet, within 300 feet of your property? It's the Dutchess County GIS that plots that. You set a 300-foot delineation around the subject parcel, and the number of neighbors come up from the Dutchess County GIS.
You take out all the parcels in the same ownership?
Yes, yeah. No repeats.
I don't see how you get more than 3, but that's all right. Since the lot line change that was that filed, because that's a 30-acre parcel that the fence surrounds. It's a 30-acre parcel, and so 300 feet, you say?
300-foot buffer around the parcel, yes.
Amy Dubin and Robert Gregg are the only 2 within 300 feet of that parcel.
Well, and Miss Karakassis, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to provide you with, a map that shows it.
That would be helpful. But I don't see how you get any more than 2.
I mean, you guys can work this out outside of the meeting.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do, though. Maybe Jim, you can give me some guidance. I mean,
Well, I think if he records 3 people and you're picking up how many?
15.
Yeah, I think that we should just discuss this. And I'll talk to you about that, like Victoria said offline. We'll have a discussion about this tomorrow. Give me a call.
Yeah, okay.
So there's something wrong there, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have anything else. Is there anything else for the good of the board that you need to bring up? And anything from you?
No, Kate Karakassis is here. I just wanted, Victoria, can I admit her for adjournment?
Sure, yes, for
No,
adjournment.
we don't have anything else on this to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't Thank you. Is there anything else for the good of the board that you need to bring up? And anything from you?
No. Here, I just wanted Victoria, can I admit for adjournment?
Sure, yes. For adjournment. Oh, she's behind. Is that Kate? Are you David Migdal?
I am.
Yeah. Okay, so there would be so you're here for the motion to adjourn.
Exactly.
I motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
Chris Carney.
I guess, all in
Yes.
favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
we'll see everybody real soon.
Yep.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.